Hello again. Here we are. A hot minute later. We're going to do another installment. This is going to be number 24, Aliens in Context and Bob's Life. I'm Paul Power. Robert Nelson is before you, aka Bob, as his friends know him by, and it is still April 10th, 2019.
Okay. In this last installment, we were talking about the possibility of changing the world and the way the world works. Let me explain something to you. I am not promoting violence or the overthrow of a government. I want that fully understood here and now. Let's face it, the government has as at its disposal.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I couldn't think of the word. Thank you. Technologies that would make an attempted violent overthrow virtually impossible nowadays. I'll give you one example, and this is one of the lesser ones. They have a truck-like system that can disperse microwaves into a mob. When that happens, you literally feel like you're on fire even though you're not. And you'll do anything it takes to get away from that, including trampling your brothers and sisters, knocking them out of the way, whatever you have to do to get away from that kind of discomfort. The way we transfix the world, the way we transfigure the world, I guess I should say, is by transfiguring ourselves. 2,000 years ago, when I was Yeshua in Judea, my father, Joseph, kept bugging me about using the power of God to drive the Romans into the sea. To which I would answer, and then who are the next people we have to drive into the sea after the Romans? You see, until people change, nothing good is going to happen. It's not a matter of having overwhelming force and driving this group or that group hither or there. It's a matter of changing who we are, because as we change who we are, we literally recreate the world around us, not figuratively, literally. Honest to God, if you knew who you were, and I mean honest to God, because that's who you are, you would recreate this world clean, fresh, and new. There's a statement that God's love makes all things new again. It's true. Getting into a bit different topic now on the alien encounters in my life. Sometimes those encounters have involved military. I haven't spoken much about this. Again, previously I didn't know if maybe I should or not. Frankly, I think our military, for the most part, has had, at least in the 1940s and before, a good record. Since that time, it's been used to take resources or to control other people or to try to start rebellions against different governments. But many of our military service people, men and women, have very good hearts and really want to do what they've been taught to train to believe in is the right thing to do. I have had some cases, however, where I have met with military personnel during an abduction. One case, I think I was 15 years old at the time. I was living in a small town in Central Florida. One of those towns where, like they say, at 7 o'clock you roll up the sidewalk, everything's closed. And if you go speeding through it, you'll miss it in a few seconds. Very nice people, very salt of the earth, good people to be around. I had a situation one night where I was abducted and I got a hold of this strange, almost like one piece. Hell, I don't know what it was. It was some kind of a weapon. I do know that. And I kept trying to use it against some of the ETs and it didn't work. Most of their technology is geared to one particular ET or an extraterrestrial physicality, biological input or mental input. So if you as a human pick up a blaster, for example, you probably won't be able to use it. It won't respond. Excuse me. But this one night I was running through corridors. Back then I could run. This guy in a tan-colored military outfit, and I remembered he had some sort of, trappings on his chest, medals. He had a military cap on, caught up to me and said, "I'm going to give you a choice. You can either give me that weapon now, or I can break your fingers and take it from you. And then tomorrow morning you'll have to come up with a really good lie to explain to your parents how your fingers got broken so they don't know what really happened. Or else if you tell them the truth, we'll come get them." I handed the weapon over to him. Didn't have much other choice. In another situation, I woke up one night not understanding at first, well, how could I be standing up in my waterbed? This doesn't make sense. I open my eyes and here's this guy in white short sleeve Navy, I think, naval outfit. And he's looking at my face like he's trying to make sure I'm coming to properly. Then I noticed that there were trees around us and some what looked like lights anchored to some posts around us. Whitewashed buildings in the distance. The guy is holding me so I don't fall down. And I'm thinking, gosh, I hope there are no spiders in those trees that we're standing under. I remember the air was kind of warm. It wasn't hot or anything. Kind of dry and warm. Excuse me. The guy then had me go with him to one of the whitewashed buildings. Had a screened-in porch on part of it. We walked in the building and we went through a long hallway. There were open doors in some cases, closed doors in others, offices on either side of us. I remember looking at one, seeing a man in a tan short sleeve uniform at his desk, sitting at his desk and pulling out a drawer and looking at us and then looking back down at his something in the drawer he was looking at. We went near to the end of the hall to the right, went into an office. The Navy guy I was with sat behind a desk, told me to sit up on a table. I did. I complained. I said, "Look, I want clothes. I said, I'm naked here. I'm not comfortable with this at all. I want some clothes." I said, "You have clothes, you have a gun?" He said, "No, you're going to have to learn to trust us." And I said, "Well, that trust doesn't come cheap or easy." I'm known for being stubborn sometimes. It's like being a Tory, and I joke with people and I say, I know we're supposed to be stubborn, but I'm not stubborn no matter what you say. And I'm not proud of being stubborn. It's just unfortunate that there are times that I've had to be. Well, he got up. He said, "Here, we know what your interests are. Let me show you what one of my interests is." He went over to some glassed-in wooden cabinets along the opposite wall and took out a couple of these long books And normally you think of a book being vertical and opening like that. These were long, they opened laterally. And they had weather charts in them. And the guy said, I collect these. These were going to get burned. And I rescued them before they could get burned. He says, to most people they wouldn't mean anything, but to me they do. They're weather charts and maps. And the pages, you know that kind of sweet smell that pages get after they've aged for a while? And I could also smell his cologne. He was standing right next to me. We talked for a while, and he was showing me the different things on these charts, and turning pages, and he put one book up and then got the other and opened it. But he said, we really want to replace the ETs and make it easier for you to give us what they want from you. We're trying to make things better for you, but you need to trust us. And I said, well, you're still doing their bidding, so no, I don't trust you. Why should I?
How about it?
And I said, you've got a holster on your hip, you got a gun there. You want me to trust you? I said, by the way, you might want to take the gun out and check it over because the barrel is bending. He didn't take me up on it. I wish he had, but he didn't. And I said, if I can do that to a piece of metal with less than a thought, think what I can do to you. And I said, so now let's talk trust. And I said, look, I don't trust the ETs. I don't trust you because you're working with them. So there's no need in trying to win my favor or my trust. It will never work. And at that point, I remember he just gave it like heavy sigh. Disgust, I guess. He put his arm on my back and then pulled across my back and said, we just want you to be willing to do what's right for your country. And I said, well, this ain't it. And I said, you can kill me. I don't give a goddamn. I said, you're not getting my cooperation. He said, stay here. And he walked out of the room and closed the door. I lost consciousness and came to back in my waterbed. That morning when I washed my hair, a spider washed out of my hair. It was about that big around, about the size of I guess between a $50 and silver dollar, and it didn't look like any spiders I had seen in Florida. It was a really dark, almost black brown. It wasn't a black widow or anything like that. It had gotten in my hair from the trees where we were standing, and when I got matter transferred back, it got transferred with me. Another time during an abduction, I was strapped down to a chair. You'll have to forgive me. I'm getting really mad about this, and I have every right to. It's my life. I was strapped down to a chair. There was a big tube going in one part of my stomach here, another tube coming out from this side over here, and I could see blood siphon through some kind of, I don't know what it was. It looked like a clear plastic holder, but I don't know if it was plastic or not. I couldn't touch it. Like I said, I was strapped down. And it looked like some sort of moist, crumpled up something in the middle that my blood was going through. And then cycled back into me. The military guy there were about 3 military people in the room, possibly 4. The guy closest to me said, we know you don't like this, we don't blame you, but there's nothing you can do about it, so you may as well just relax. That morning I got up, there was a bruise on this part of my stomach over here where the tube had been, and a bruise on this part where the other tube had been. And over the next 2 weeks, they got worse and worse and worse. We're talking black and blue and purple and horrible looking. I, to this day, don't know what they were doing to me. There was another situation where I was abducted, and there were a lot of ETs and one naval guy who was on board the craft. I say naval because he was wearing a Navy uniform. I went over to excuse me, a control surface that had multicolor infused coloring in it, and I put my hands on it and started thinking danger, hate, death. I noticed that the colors were changing black all around my hands. Then I stepped away thinking, good, I've damaged the craft and I hope it crashes, even if I'm on it. They took me to a hallway, curved around the shape of the craft. Curved windows where I could see how there was an orange grove near us. The craft lifted up, excuse me. Half a minute later, one ET grabs one of my arms and the Navy guy grabs the other. There was no gravity. I couldn't control where I was. I couldn't reach anything. I was floating. And they, actually getting an upset stomach over this now, they grabbed me and pulled me back into the room where I had been, and they said, you see that screen over there? It was a huge screen, cigarette paper thin. It looked like it was made of little lines. Otherwise it would be clear. There was a picture of a farmhouse and horses, about 6 horses. And we were aimed right down for them. The naval guy said, see what you did? And I said, I know I did, and I don't give a damn, and I don't care if I die in this, because at least I'll take you all with me. It's worth it. At the final second before the craft was going to hit the ground, I mean the horses took off running. Before the craft was going to hit the ground, all of a sudden it bolted up at an angle. I remember because I could feel the forces pulling me back, the G-force, even inside that craft. I was returned at the end of that abduction. The next day I contacted a friend of mine who was in the medical. He was a male nurse. And he looked over at my arm and pulled my arm up like this and said, wow, who did the blood work? That is mighty fine work. That's a real fine needle, whatever they used. Told him I had been abducted, and I asked if we could go looking for where I think it was that the craft actually was on the ground for a short time when I was trying to damage it. And we looked at a number of places, and I figured, oh well, we're not going to find it. Finally, the last place was exactly where I had been. Exactly. And there were some weird square-shaped holes in the ground. 4 of them. At different intervals, like landing gear. We both got sick. My friend and I did. I remember we got back in his car. I mean, we were on private property even. We got back in his car, and he said, how are you feeling? I said, about like you look. And the horses, by the way, in the farmhouse was there, exactly as I had seen it the night before from the spacecraft. We took off, went back to his place. His wife was working, so she wasn't home yet. I said, "Is there any possibility we've been exposed to some deadly radiation?" And he said, "There's one way we can find out real quickly. I've got a Polaroid camera. I'll take a picture of you. If there's splotches all over it, then we get to the nearest radiation detox center and they make us as comfortable as they can till we die." Oh, wow, what a wonderful option. He took a picture. The Polaroid came out great. No, I didn't break the camera. And there were no blotches on the picture or anything like that. I think we were exposed to some sort of electromagnetic radiation that didn't agree with the way our brains worked. And that made us sick. We got over it hours later. 2 weeks after that, we went back to the same place. Grass and weeds were growing like mad there. And they glowed almost. They were like, it was amazing. It was weird. But we just wanted to see what effect would be on that place. And we did. You know how a plant looks when it's real young? It's got that real bright green, almost glowing look to it. Everything there did. I remember in one of the abductions that I went through, I was being escorted by two military people. And one of the niches off the hallway that I was being escorted on the craft, I saw some poor guy with like 5 military people around him kicking him down on the floor. And I yelled, "Stop it. This is horrible. You're not going to do this." And I remember the people that I was with said, "Mind your own business. This is none of your business." And they pulled me with them and took me to some other room. I wish I could tell you, with all my heart, I wish I could tell you that either our military or some other military from some other country had come to my aid to stop the stuff from happening. Didn't happen that way. There are a lot more things I could share with you. There are times when I have, as I've made known here, I have noticed humans, usually military, working with the Greys from time to time. All the time? No. The majority of the times? No, definitely not. Right before the reptilians started changing to become a better species, they actually got me one night. I remember laying on some comfortable surface actually, and it looked like there was wood curved around me and above me, kind of a reddish wood. And they were saying, "If you don't cooperate with us, you can't expect your dad to help you." And I said, "My dad's passed on. I wouldn't expect him to be able to help me at this situation." And I said, "And I'm not going to cooperate with you, so kill me or send me home." And I said, if you don't kill me, then I'm going to come after you. I said, because you're next on my shit list. Next thing I knew is I was walking, I had concrete paving type stones in the backyard. It looked like they were stones, but it's concrete with a mold. And I had little solar light generators, lights along that path. And I was walking that path to the house where I was living at the time, and thinking, well, they're dull, they're dim, but they're not out yet, about the lights. It was pretty shortly after that the reptilians began changing. At first, though, there were some problems. A friend of mine who loved the reptilians came to me one day and said, Bob, I don't understand something. Why is it that the reptilians are all of a sudden terraforming bases and moons that nobody would ever want to terraform or live on? And they're doing it at a breakneck pace. And I said, that's because they don't have any choice. You see, I'm going after them. He shut up at that point. There was another reptilian abduction where I was taken to be shown some railroad tracks on the north side of town. It was night. There was a female reptilian who told me, if you don't cooperate with us, if you don't behave yourself, we're going to have you bare-ass tied down to these hot tracks in the hot blistering sun. And I told her, I said, fuck you, you won't have a chance to because you won't live long enough to. And I said, and it won't matter whether I'm alive or dead, because I can get you from either side. And I said, and Michael's moving against you, the Archangel Michael. You don't stand a chance. I said, you don't have a snowball's chance in hell, and that's where you're going to go. It's after that they actually began changing. But not until they picked me up one night and put apparently a series of fibers in my neck, on the back of my neck. It actually itched some. I showed them to a friend, and the friend said, I've never seen a rash like that, and I've never seen bug bites like that. And I told him, I said, well, they're none of the above. That same day, that evening, I was working on my computer. I was actually doing what they called instant messaging back then. That dates that done back in the early 2000s. And all of a sudden, I felt something happened in me where I almost lost consciousness, and my computer at the same time just went crazy. It turned itself off. They were sending a signal through me and through my computer, or maybe I was bouncing it off me to my computer. But I struggled and kept conscious. I remember sending a message like, this is it, don't bother praying. But then after that, they actually began changing. It wasn't because they just wanted to be good for goodness sake. It was because they wanted to live. One of the things that I have done through my life, I never start fights. I hate bullies. But bullies who start fights with me, I end up beating the shit out of them, badly.
Okay, that's the end of